My name's Erika.
Hi there, my name's Jocelyn. I'm 47 years old.
I live in Saltcoat, Saskatchewan, and I started riding for the first time last year in September when I did the course.
What possessed you to actually get out there and ride motorcycles?
I rode dirt bikes when I was young. I lived on a farm, and so we had dirt bikes growing up.
Motorcycles have been in my family for a long time. I was 2 years old the first time I was on a bike. My uncle drove one for years.
My husband and friends of his at work decided that they should take the course, and he convinced me to do it. And I honestly was pretty scared to do it until we got to the course and kind of got on a bike and did some of the slow stuff and just realized, how fun it was. So then decided that it was a good choice that I went to the course.
My boyfriend has a huge passion for motorbikes. He has 4, and I ended up just being a passenger for the last year or so. And it wasn't until he actually said to me, "Hey Joss, how about you getting your own bike and we start taking trips together?" And that was the first time it actually clicked on me that, hey, I can do this. Why didn't I think about that before?
So once you decided that you wanted to get out on the street and do some riding, did anybody question your judgment on this?
Yes, definitely. Both Jared's, my husband's parents, and my parents both were quite skeptical at first with it, and still are quite worried with us going on the highway with motorcycles. But they were just more concerned for safety reasons. And why would you do that to drive a car?
No one questioned it. I will admit that I did not tell my parents about it until afterwards. After I had got my license, I had explained to them, just because of my uncle and their familiarity with my uncle on his bike his entire life. And he had a few accidents, which ended up causing quite a bit of pain in his life. But hence the hesitancy to actually not tell my parents right away. But once I did tell them, I also prefaced it with the very important, I went through a weekend safety training course where they explained in detail and in depth with very experienced instructors the ins and the outs and everything that I needed to know. So to be completely honest, once they heard about that, they were very happy. Reluctantly happy, but I think that sealed the deal. I know it sure did for me.
Did any of that stem from you being a woman?
That's a good question.
Not from my experience, because it was from both, for both Jared and I. I'm not sure if Jared hadn't been involved, if it was just me, if there would have been a different reaction.
I think there might be a small part of that motorcycles seem to be a masculine thing, something like, a mother of 3 doesn't start when she's 47 years old. Like, that's just not in the mom cards or a woman card. So I think, honestly, maybe slightly society and my parents think that maybe that's not something they want their daughters to do, but maybe just a slight bit. I don't let that hold me back at all. It's not a thing that I know. A lot of female riders, a lot of my close friends actually are female riders, and it never was an issue or a question in my mind. It's just never was something that I actually pursued or even thought about until my boyfriend came into my life.
What, if any, second thoughts did you have before taking the actual steps to ride?
Honestly, it probably had to do with my uncle and the accidents that he's had and the pain and surgeries he's had due to that. So it's not a toy. And so I knew it was something that had to be taken seriously. My boyfriend had, honestly, the most experience I've ever had was sitting on his bike and turning the key. That was it. I didn't get to move it 3 feet or even put it into gear, but it's a big, heavy vehicle. It's nothing that should be taken lightly. So the only thing would have been safety and being safe. That was my only concern, was having that aspect down pat.
I had lots of hesitancies. I was just kind of worried about my abilities at first, especially at the course, and being embarrassed about not being good enough and not knowing what I was doing, because I honestly hadn't been on a bike since I was probably 10 years old. So that part of it was intimidating. Yeah.
Who taught you to ride?
You did.
Yes. So, prior to taking the motorcycle course, did anybody attempt to teach you to ride?
No, never. Like, the only experience that I mentioned was after I had signed up for the motorcycle safety course. My boyfriend and I took one of his bikes, and he did a complete walk around, showed me every little single thing I needed to know about the bike. I got to sit on the bike, I got to turn it on. Like I said, I didn't put it into gear, I didn't move it 5 centimeters. So before actually starting with the motorcycle training course, I had never ridden a bike, not even an inch. So sitting on it was my only experience.
A true newbie.
My dad would have spent the most time teaching me to ride on the farm, but not a lot of safety talk when it came to the farm.
So do you remember what those first few lessons were like from your dad?
No, I can't. I don't remember. I know there were things we weren't taught. Like I always broke my legs on the ground and used my feet to stop when I needed to. Not a lot of helmets worn on the farm. So
How intimidating was the training experience?
it was really intimidating going there. I was quite scared. I didn't eat breakfast because my stomach was quite queasy. But once I got there and got to know the people around and had some conversations, it started to ease that anxiety.
Thinking about that first lesson, how much confidence did that give you?
Well, that first lesson gave me, I mean, it wasn't much. It gave me actually a huge boost. It made me feel good. It made me feel like I can do this. I got this.
I think the biggest thing was starting really slowly, even if you had some experience, they still started from the beginning just to see. And they also split us into 2 different groups. So put those with more riding experience in one group and those with less riding experience in another, which was also good because then you feel like you're with some like-minded or people with the same amount of experience as you.
Before training, did you know what style of bike you wanted and what style of riding you'd be doing or be interested in?
Well, to be completely honest, I had my bike before I actually went through the training. So I knew exactly what type of bike I had, which is kind of a interesting story because I already had, it was a Honda Shadow 750. And to me, that bike seemed huge to me. But it was the bike that I had. And when I went for my training and the safety course, immediately there was a huge long line of bikes, and they said, okay, go pick your bike. And I immediately went to the bike that was in the most similar size, shape as the bike that I had at home and to learn on. And I quickly found that that's a big bike for someone like me when you have never moved a bike at foot before. So I actually talked to one of the female riders, instructors, I should say, at noon on the first day. And I just pulled her aside and I said, okay, woman to woman, I need your opinion. I said, you've watched me now for a morning. I said, is this bike a good bike for me to have? It's a big bike to handle. And she said, I'm going to tell you something. She said, the most important part here is for you to be comfortable and learn the skills. Learn the skills first. If you're on a bike right now that is too big for you or you find overwhelming or intimidating, go to a smaller bike. And she actually suggested one of the Groms. And I said, not a Grom, really? It was a tiny little bike. And she said, honestly, I think that might be something a little bit easier for you to learn on. So sure enough, after lunch there that first day, I switched to a Grom. best decision ever. Best decision ever. I was able to make those quick, short, tight turns. I wasn't feeling overwhelmed. I felt way more comfortable on a bike that I can handle.
How long between your training and getting out on the street?
I think we finished our training, and then I think I bought the bike the next weekend and we were out going.
I went the next day. Anybody can do it. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are in life, male, female, what your age is. Just go and do it.